This section of the course will give you all the tips you need to find your ideal job. Even if you know what job that you want to apply for, this section will still be useful to you. I'll take you through some actual job descriptions and point out the things you should be looking for as you prepare your resume. This real-life example will help you to structure a fantastic resume. So let's get started. The first thing to think about when you're looking for your ideal job is, what are your career goals? Think about your strongest skills. What are your strengths? Do you really excel at leadership? Do you really excel at analytics? Or perhaps you have fantastic presentation skills. Leveraging your skills in your job search and in your career planning is a fantastic way to help you be happy in your job. Next, let's look at job titles that are of interest to you. These could be your next step, or maybe it's a few steps from now. But this will also help you when you go about setting up your job search. So, are you looking to become an analyst, an analytics manager? What are the other titles that these might go by? Think through this. It's going to help a lot when you go out and start looking for positions. It's also going to help when it comes time to structure your resume. Are there any particular companies that you're interested in? Some people have very specific companies that they hope to work for, or a set of companies that they hope to work for. Make a note of these. Locations. Are there specific locations you want to work, or maybe there's specific locations that you know you don't want to work? Think about this as you're starting your job search. It's likely that there will be positions that are near you and across the country or in a different country altogether. Are you open to relocation in your new job? There's a worksheet included in the resources of this section where you can make notes on all of these areas. Once you've thought about your career goals, it's time to start your search. If you've listed specific companies, go to the company's website and look at their job openings. Also, go on LinkedIn and see if there are people that you might already know that are working at this company. Search engines. There are multiple different search engines for jobs. You can, of course, Google jobs, but I would recommend looking at a few different resources because different places operate differently, and some companies don't list their jobs every place. So utilize Google, look at Indeed and Career Builder. There's also Monster and Ladders and a lot of other niche-specific search engines. At least early in your search, take some time to look at each of these and see how the jobs that are being posted differ from platform to platform. Pick which ones that you want to work with. I would recommend that Indeed or Career Builder be on your list as something to routinely be checking for jobs. The other advantage of these is once you have a resume built, you can load it into your profile on those sites. This enables recruiters to be able to reach out to you when they have openings that your resume may be a match for. So this helps your job search keep going 24/7, even if you're not out there actively looking. Third, LinkedIn. This is such a key to utilize. LinkedIn is growing at an astounding rate, and there are a lot of companies that post jobs on LinkedIn and nowhere else, or LinkedIn and their company website. Utilize LinkedIn to find additional jobs. This is also a great place to find connections that may already work at the place that you want to work at, or in the field you want to work in. Utilize those connections in your search. In addition to those connections, use the rest of your network. Mention to people that you're looking for a new role and the type of role that you're looking for. Someone in your network may know of a position that you haven't heard about or haven't come across yet. Now let's talk a little bit about how companies handle applications. This is going to be really important as we build your resume. Companies use applicant tracking systems. These are incredibly common and in some cases in-house systems at very large organizations, but even medium-sized and smaller-sized companies are starting to utilize these. In fact, LinkedIn has their own applicant tracking system targeting specifically small and medium-sized companies that may not otherwise have their own system. So we'll look at how it works and why it matters. First, how does it work? Applicant tracking systems are really designed to be a search engine of sorts for all of the applications that are received. When a company posts a new job, they'll set it up in the back end of the system, and they'll have the hiring manager or the recruiter identify some key things that they want to find in the person that they're going to interview for the role. A great clue to what the hiring manager is looking for is going to be found in the job description. So we'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to that. The applicant tracking systems work by identifying how good of a match your resume is to what's been specified as important for the job posting. This could be a variety of words, education, skills. So we want to make sure your resume is set up in a way that it creates a great match score. It's also possible in these systems for things to be weighted in different ways, meaning if you're getting hired for a programming job, the hiring manager may say that it's very important that you have a match for programming skills, but maybe they down prioritize having formal education around it. It's pretty difficult to know upfront what weight is applied to each thing, but the job description again is going to give us a few clues. So why does it matter? These applicant tracking systems are typically reviewing your resume before any person ever looks at it. We're going to design your resume in a way that the applicant tracking system is really happy with it and you get a high score. On average, 75% of applicants are rejected by these applicant tracking systems. This means that 3/4 of the time, no one looks at your resume when they decide this person isn't a good fit for the role. So we want to make these applicant tracking systems happy. But keep in mind that these are just a tool. The other thing we're going to focus on is making sure your resume looks fantastic when it does go in front of a recruiter or a hiring manager. Because the reality is, once your resume makes it through these systems, it's going in front of a person. So we need it to work for both situations. Now, let's get into understanding the job description. This is really going to be the foundation of building our work experience and profile in the resume. Let's look at an actual job posting. This is an actual job posting I found online for a data analyst. I've blacked out or removed references to the company because that's not the important piece here. I want to give you a real-world example of how to understand this job posting and how to build your resume around it. So as we start to skim through the job posting, we see there's discussion of the mission of the company. They want to help users get the most out of their product, and they want to represent the users and their global partners, sharing insights within the organization. They build solutions that take user experience and engagement with their products to the next level, support users across products, countries, etc., advocate for users. So immediately what I'm drawn to is in these first 2 paragraphs, we've seen users mentioned quite a number of times. So one thing that I'm going to keep in mind as I start writing a resume for this position is I want to mention user experience and user engagement and what I've done to work with that in the past. They're immediately leading with this talk of users, which means it's something that's important to them, and they focused a lot on it in these first 2 paragraphs. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind. If I was actually applying for this position and building my resume around it, I would likely either print this out and actually take a highlighter to it to highlight things like user experience, just to remind myself, or I would have a notebook or a document open on the computer and make some notes as I go through this, just so I don't forget when it comes time to write the resume. Okay, so we've talked a lot about users and products and feeding information back into the organization. Then this 3rd paragraph, they're committed to building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive company and consider that the foundation. They actually link to a blog post about their program. This is a rather large company, so they have a lot of resources online. I would go check out this blog post that they mentioned because there may be some insights about the job and the department that could be helpful. I also noticed that there's talk of innovation, diversity, inclusiveness. So these are things that I would also include or consider including on my resume. Now, we've moved a bit from the department, and then this next paragraph, we're getting into the specific data analyst role. So as an analyst, you'll be working hands-on with products and operations data, identifying underlying drivers of the data, using that knowledge to make predictions and provide strategic recommendations. You need to have strong analytical prowess, technical aptitude, and business judgment. You'll be expected to focus on results, be a self-starter, and demonstrate success in using analytics to drive understanding, progression, and excellence in product and operations. This is a lot of information. There's so much packed into this. As I skim this, what I'm seeing are multiple references to data. I'm seeing references to predictions and recommendations. So this to me means insight from data. What can you take away from the data? You need to have strong analytical prowess, technical aptitude, and business judgment. So here they're looking at how do you apply all of that information and technical skill that you have and make it meaningful in the business. Focusing on results, being a self-starter or self-motivated, demonstrating success and using analytics. So in this paragraph, my takeaway from this and what I would focus on in my resume is I would definitely use the word data multiple times. I would focus on using the word analytics multiple times. I would talk about results a lot. I would talk about business results, business insights as important things, because these are words that are recurring very frequently in this paragraph. So it's very likely there are some match scores set up in the ATS system, the applicant tracking system, associated with these roles. So this is the main paragraph actually in this job description that talks about that specific role. Then we move into another paragraph that's talking more about the overall department. They're creating products and services to make the world a better place. Solution oriented. I see the word solutions and solve popping up a lot. So I would probably take solution and make sure that I include that in my resume because I'm seeing that routinely. Customer benefit. This is another thing. So in the first two paragraphs, we talked a lot about users. Now we're seeing customers. Those are fantastic words to utilize in your resume. Here we have customers again, globally, technical skill, product expertise, understanding of customers' complex needs. These are all types of things that hopefully you have things that you can tie back in your resume. And then they reference a video to learn more about their team. So go to that, watch it. If there are things that are repeated themes that come up in that, pull out those words and use those in your resume as well. In addition to that written out job description, there's some minimum qualifications and some preferred qualifications. So minimum, they want a bachelor's degree, 2 years of experience in some analytical field, 2 years of experience at a management consulting or on corporate strategy, experience with one or more programming languages or analysis tools. So these are all things that you will want to mention on your resume. Try to use the terms that they use. So if you've done management consulting or been on a corporate strategy team, use these terms word for word because they're likely going to be looking for an exact match for these types of words. You have a much higher chance at scoring well if you use the specific wording that you're seeing in the job description. Then there's preferred qualifications. So these aren't mandatory, but if you have any of them, again, I would word for word use these on your resume. An MS or advanced degree, more experience than was mentioned in the minimum, software internet experience, experience writing and maintaining ETLs, problem solving, and the list goes on. This is 2 pages. That's the end of the job description. Anything that you can pull from here that you can use word for word especially things that show up frequently, is going to drastically increase your chances of being a good match in the applicant tracking system. So even as I'm scanning this page right here, my eye is drawn to the number of times data and data analysis are referenced. So there's data here, large data sets here, data prototyping, statistical techniques. These are types of things that they're saying for a reason. If they're saying them repeatedly, it's something they're very interested in. If you have a specific position in mind that you're applying for, go through this and do this exercise with that position before moving on to the next section of the course. It will help make sure that your resume is a great match for that position. If you don't have a specific position in mind, but you have more general, maybe you want to be a data analyst, but you don't have a specific data analyst role that you're applying for, my suggestion would be to take several of these job descriptions at different companies that match the types of things you would apply for and look for the topics that recur over and over, and then build your resume around that. Then when it's time to actually apply for the job, go back and make some small modifications that are custom to that specific position. This gives you a much better chance at ranking very high and putting yourself in the top 25% of candidates. Who wouldn't want to be in the top 25% of candidates automatically? It's definitely worth the few minutes that it will take to modify your resume to tailor it to each position. Go through this exercise and then come back for the next section of the course.